Hey everybody, what is going on? HexLex here, got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with my latest iteration on Spright. This is going to be more of a pure build that utilizes Dark Beckoning Beast, so let's review this combo line. To start, we're going to normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast. Assuming we opened it and no other cards in hand, you'll want to activate the Dark Beckoning Beast and search out your opening of the Spirit Gates, which we will then activate in order to search another copy of our Dark Beckoning Beast. Now, since we have a Dark Beckoning Beast in play, we get an extra normal summon for another copy. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and actually make our Spright Sprend. Now, if you wanted to play under Nibiru, you could go straight for Gigantic Spright, but I actually prefer beginning with Spright Sprend for pretty much every single turn 1 combo line. Nibiru is not nearly as often played, and even when it is played, it's usually a one-of, so odds are relatively minor that your opponent's actually going to open it. In my experience playing Spright, which I have a lot of, going for Sprend before Gigantic, I've only been punished by Nibiru literally twice, literally 2 times across, well over 100 games. So, well over 200 actually, probably, just in the recent formats, but alright, so we can turn our Dark Beckoning Beast into Sprend. Sprend, of course, is going to want to dump the Nimble Angler, which then Angler's effect will allow us to special summon 2 copies of Nimble Beaver from our deck. Now, from here, we can go into Gigantic Spright. Using Sprend and one of the Beavers, and then we can activate our Gigantic Spright effect, detaching the Nimble Beaver, and then we can special summon Spright Blue from our deck. Blue, of course, is going to be able to summon, or rather add, the Jet, which Jet can then special summon, and Jet effects will add us the Spright Starter. Alright, let's make Elf. We can use that with Beaver plus Gigantic. We get to use Elf's effect in order to revive one of our level 2 monsters. And more than that, you can also actually use the opening of the Spirit Gates if you're willing to discard a card in order to revive one of your Dark Beckoning Beasts as well. Now, we're definitely going to want to make an IP Masquerena. Always important to end on that for your Spright board. And there are also a couple of different rank 2s you can make. I'm a pretty big fan of Djinn Buster, which can be made with any 2 level 2 dark monsters. Negates any monster effect. This is also great to make mid-combo. But we're focusing on some anti-Maliss tech. So for this example, I'm actually going to make the Mannequin Cat. This is something I've shown off in the Millennium Spright build previously. But the reason that you want to make a Mannequin Cat in this format is because when your opponent normal or special summons a dark monster, you can special summon Chaos Hunter, which states that your opponent cannot banish cards. This is great against Maliss, obviously in general, but especially now because a lot of Maliss builds have actually cut Nightmare Cerberus in order to make room for more extract cards, meaning that most Maliss builds are not playing an easy out to the Chaos Hunter. And don't forget that we still have Spright Starter, which allows you to end on either red or carrot if you want a monster negate or a spell trap negate. If you've got the Djinn Buster, then you probably don't need the red, and you can go for carrot. Carrot's also good against board breakers, which Spright tends to be weak to in general. But there you go. That's pretty much an example of the kind of setup you could do. Again, Mannequin Cat could be any number of rank or link 2 monsters, with Mannequin Cat being one of the premier choices in this format for its ability to counter Maliss. Alright, let's take a look at some gameplay now. And of course, what better way to begin than with a game against Maliss? Now, I will say, a lot of my Maliss opponents did concede the games I won against Maliss. They tend to concede really early. If I had like a Lancia, or once I summoned a Mannequin Cat, at that point they would usually just concede. But I did manage to get one game that was at least somewhat back and forth against Maliss here. And it's because they actually have this Droll and Lockbird. Now, Droll and Lockbird is a card that Spright is actually really good against. Or rather, Droll and Lockbird, I should say, is pretty bad against Spright. This variant, though, because we're on Dark Beckoning Beast, Droll Lockbird is a little bit better. Because I led with opening of the Spirit Gates, now I can't search off of Blue or Jet, which does hurt a little bit. It means I'm going to have to go for Swap Frog for the Gigantic, and it means I won't get access to Red or Carrot. But one of those negates is pretty much all I lose out on. I can still build the rest of my board here, even under a Droll and Lockbird, right? Because I had the Nimble Beaver. Now, even if I didn't have Nimble Beaver, I could have still normal summoned Beckoning Beast, linked into Almirage, opening discard a card to revive Beckoning Beast, and then go into Sprint. So that also would have been enough to go into a combo line here. But yeah, as you can see, able to just board build all the usual stuff. We got Elf, IP, even get to bring back the Ronin yet again, and then Overlay, and I think this is going to be Mannequin Cat. Yeah, I've been making Mannequin Cat on turn 1 pretty much every time, just assuming my opponent's going to be on Maliss. It's not a risky assumption to make here. And yeah, like I said, a lot of opponents just kind of concede. A lot of Maliss opponents, in my experience, just kind of concede pretty quickly. I think a lot of people see the Mannequin Cat and kind of know what's up. You know, of course, the Worlds build of Millennium Spright featured Mannequin Cat into Chaos Hunter very prominently against Maliss. But again, my other wins against Maliss were like me resolving lane C or C and then conceding, or more of what you just saw here. This game was at least interesting because my opponent drolled me. So I'm going to show off some more duels here, though. Don't you worry. All right, for this next game, let's show off a game going up against Branded. So Branded is a deck that, while not quite as much as Maliss, does still rely a decent bit on, you know, the ability to banish. So, I don't know, Mannequin Cat into Chaos Hunter can still be of some use there. It is a bit narrow of an out, I will say. Normally, I don't like playing such highly specific tech. But with Maliss so prevalent in the meta, you know, the funny thing is I actually remember doing something similar in Tier Limit format where I would go Mannequin Cat into the end of Anubis, which is basically Necro Valley on legs, which is also Dark Attribute. Now this game is a great example of being able to put out the Djinn Buster mid-combo. You see, not only were we able to put out Djinn Buster, but also Spright Carrot. So now it doesn't matter if my opponent does have the Nib, or the Ash, or the Imperm, or the Veiler, or whatever. I can just stop it. So, yeah, I love Djinn Buster. Djinn Buster is one of my favorite rank 2s to make in Spright. Highly, highly recommend playing it. You'll notice I'm also now on Double Cross. Double Cross I am on because I like it against Maliss as well. Being able to attach or take control of something like normal summon Dormouse makes it a lot better of an out than, of course, like Smashers would be. For my extra Spright Spell and Trap that I've been on that's not starter, for a lot of the recent time, it's actually been, well, now I can't think of it, Gamma Burst. Gamma Burst. But honestly, I don't know, I'm kind of starting to think you don't really need Gamma Burst that much. Because, I don't know, you can, it's not that hard to build up an OTK board if they don't have anything. And if they have a big monster that's blocking you, then you just make Shadow Mosquito, so. Alright, now here I will say the Super Poly Discard Dark Magician really threw me off. That's kind of why I used Double Cross so early. Although it was a misplay to attach it to Gigantic, I should have put it under Djinn Buster because I was going to link off the Gigantic anyway, so my opponent is going to get their draw here. But, like, I didn't know if they were going to make a rank 6 or try to link it to something weird like Moon of the Closed Heaven for Fiendsmith stuff or what. So, yeah, after Super Poly, discard Dark Magician into, you know, Bestial stuff, I was a little bit unsure. But then, I don't know, I saw their icon, I saw their board, and I'm like, okay, it's probably just Branded. They're also on, I think, 60 cards, right? Yeah, so I figured it was probably just going to be Branded. Gonna go for the Dominus Impulse against the Cartesia here. I'll talk about this a little bit more in the deck breakdown section, but Dominus Impulse is a lot of the reason why I chose to go for quote-unquote pure Spright for this build. I guess pure in the sense that I'm not using another engine like Millennium or Fiendsmith. Impulse is a great card against Maliss, but also just in general. And that's the thing too, right? Even though this is an anti-Maliss build, I wanted to keep it still good for general ranked ladder use. So I'm not going all the way like main decking Imperial Iron Walls, right? Like the World's build. I'm not that anti-Maliss. I want to be, you know, somewhat reasonable here. But yeah, looks like they're going to use Sarnir against my Elf Revive. We can still go for the Ronin Revive and then overlay the Ronin with the Elf in order to make Gigantic. From here, Gigantic gets to activate, summoning blue from deck. We go blue for Jet. And then we can go Jet for starter here as well. And yeah, I mean, this is a situation where Gamburst, I don't think would even really... Well, the defense mode Sarnir would make a Gamburst OTK a little bit weird here, but I don't need to Gamburst OTK because I have Shadow Mosquito and I can just use that. And opponents even got exactly enough life points for the 3 burns to be enough here. Always nice when that happens. Nothing like a good Shadow Mosquito OTK. Alright, I got one more duel lined up for us, so let's finish off with that one. Sorry, I misspoke there. It's not one more, it's 2 more. I thought that was the 3rd game. I have 4. Alright, so this one, I think if I remember right, is going to be a going 2nd game. Yes, and it's going to be the very rare Mirror Match. Spright Mirror Match. Love to see it. And I kind of knew that's what it was going to be as soon as I saw Normal Summon Caddy. Of course, I did immediately follow it with blue, but... yeah, good stuff. Always love a good mirror match. Love to see an opponent on anybody on Spright, even if I'm not playing it. But yeah, the Melfi engine, I think even in a pure build like this, I'm still not the biggest fan of. Mostly because of the main deck slots that it takes. Like, I'd be a lot more excited to play the Melfi engine if I didn't have to put Caddy and Penny in my main deck. Caddy's not horrible, to be fair, because you can search Nimbleweaver off of it, but... I'd still rather not use main deck slots if possible. This opponent went for Elf and then Sprint, which is another option you could do. You mainly just don't want to go Gigantic and then Sprint, because then Sprint will be in the EMZ, and Sprint, like Elf, cannot be used as Link material the turn it is Link summoned. So if you're going to put Sprint in the EMZ, you have to do it first and then make Gigantic with Sprint. A little surprised my opponent didn't end on the IP Masquerade here, but honestly, they might still have enough to just get me here. I'm going to try to imperm the Caddy, and that did actually end up beating out the Carrot here. Now, this Cross-Out Designator could be interesting, but I do have to be a little bit careful of what I use it against, because if, for example, I had used it against their Spright Blue here, well, then obviously I wouldn't have been able to search off of my Spright Blue. So I'm going to go for Normal Summon Nimbleweaver. They're going to use their Melfi Caddy F. And they're actually adding a really, really cool level 2 monster that I have played before. It's Silvervine Cerny, which you can tribute and then special summon level 2 monsters from your graveyard and hand if you do so. I think I played that in Melfi Spright. And when I say Melfi Spright, I don't just mean sprites with Caddy and Penny and nothing else. I mean, like, actually playing Melfi Spright with, like, Wallies. Because a lot of people call pure Spright with the Melfi engine Melfi Spright, but my baseline has always been Wally. Like, if you're not playing Melfi Wallies, then is it really a Melfi Spright deck? You know what I mean? But, yeah, this Nib was a little shocking. I actually was not expecting them to wipe the whole board, including all their stuff as well. But I'm not playing a Nib in this build, so the Cross-Out Designator actually did not come up. This was one of the times where Nib just got me, but I will throw out Cross-Out against their Spright Jet, but they already have enough bodies on board that I really don't think it's going to matter anymore. I mean, especially if they're on the Mosquito, then they have OTK right now as it is, but you know, they're going to use the effect of their Silvervine Cerny to actually bring back the Spright Blue from the graveyard to then search a red. Then Blue plus Jet going to make an Elf here. I'm actually trying to remember exactly how they OT. Oh, they OTK'd by, I remember now, because remember they searched Double Cross earlier. So what they can actually do here in a moment is, yeah, they're going to make Gigantic. And then, yeah, they're going to use Double Cross, take control of the Nib token, and then kill me with that. How cool is that? How cool is that? So, yeah. Definitely down to include a loss when it's a cool game. And it's, even though it's a loss for me, it's still a win for Spright. So, thought it'd still fit for this video. Alright, now we have one more replay left that we're going to finish off with. And this last game is going to be against Kashtira, which, to be fair, Mannequin Cat into Chaos Hunter would be good against if they summon Dark monsters. Yeah, Dark is actually, like, Dark and Light are, like, weirdly the two attributes that Kashtira actually does not go into, like, at all. So, yeah, they're going to try to Fuelos me here, but we have an Ash Blossom ready for that nonsense, and don't think they're going to have too much else in the way of hand traps here. God, I can't even remember the last time I faced against a straight-up Kashtira deck. It's not a deck you see very often, because it's not a deck that's very good. It's harsh, but true. It's just not a deck that's good. Kashtira has, like, everything going against it in a lot of ways, right? Like, they are horribly susceptible to board breakers. They fall to, like, pretty much literally every single hand trap. And, like, I don't know, their end board just doesn't even have any, like, insulation or, like, protection at all. They don't have any amount of interaction aside from, you know, Shangri-Ira not being able to really be destroyed by card effects or battle. That's about it. So, I mean, yeah, they board zone, or they board block and, you know, banish with a Ryzeal, but they don't have a way of, like, negating anything that was mentioned earlier, so it's a little bit rough for Kashtira out there, not gonna lie. Which is kind of weird to say, given the history of the deck, but it is actually true here. But yeah, here I can end on both Djinn Buster and Mannequin Cat. I don't have to make a decision between the two. And I think I am going to use Carrot to end on IP, because I can always Elf to revive Carrot during my opponent's turn. It'll kind of suck if they lead with a board breaker, but that's really the only situation in which I get punished for making IP here. I'm going to go for the double cross on the Fenrir, throwing out a Max C in case it was actually Kashtira, and then I'm also going to use Elf to revive Carrot in this open game state. Sure enough, like I said, it is actually Cash. They're going to go for a Unicorn next, so I'm going to use IP linked off the Mannequin Cat, because again, I'm not going to get a chance to summon Chaos Hunter. Kashtira doesn't summon Dark attribute monsters, so I'm going to make Little Knight and just banish the Unicorn here before I can search Kashtira Theosis. They get an extra deck rip, but I don't really care at this point. There's not really anything they could take from me that would be hugely detrimental. They took Zeus of all cards. They really should have taken Shadow Mosquito. That would have actually been detrimental. Like, I probably wouldn't have been able to OTK through a monster if they had taken the, you know, Mosquito. Ogre, I'm going to bounce out with the Little Knight. Thrust, I'm going to negate with the Carrot. And sure enough, while they have the set prep pass, I'm going to give them Unicorn back and get Little Knight as we go into their turn. I still have the Djinn Buster negate up, by the way, in case that last card in hand does end up being a hand trap. But here I'm just going to use Carrot to sack off the Little Knight to negate and destroy the Kashtira preparations. This triggers the Ogre, which I'm not concerned about. Like, I have more than enough gas in my deck to get me going. Was really surprised they banished blue there. They should have banished Spright red, because that's more often a one of. Now, sure enough, their last card in hand does end up being a monster effect. Not a hand trap, but a Scareclaw Kashtira, which I can negate with the Djinn Buster. So, that's kind of funny. My opponent opened, or not opened, but in their going second hand, they had like one of each Kashtira monster except Ryzeal, and I was just able to stop everything. I don't know. Just the Spright board having answers to everything, it feels like. Not every time, but a lot of the time. It feels like you can answer just about everything besides a good board breaker, like a Droplet or sometimes a Lightning Storm or something. But yeah, at this point, it's a pretty simple Shadow Mosquito OTK. We've got enough bodies on board to do so. 28 times 3 is 70, or 8,400 rather, so even if my opponent were at 8,000, this would definitely be enough to OTK, right? Yes, that's right. It's 8,400. But we have not only the extra Dark Beckoning Beast body, but even if we needed another body, we also have Starter for a monster from deck. And there we have it. Again, we love to see those Shadow Mosquito OTKs, don't we? Well, I do anyway. So. Alright, here is the list here. Now, as mentioned, this is more of an anti-Maliss build, in that we not only Manic and Cat for Chaos Hunter, I am also playing Lancias. I'd like to play a third as well, but just didn't want to go up to 43 cards. But also, as I touched on earlier, Dominus Impulse is a very, very good card against Maliss, a very good hand trap against them, as well as a solid hand trap in general. So that's why I'm not playing Millennium, that's why I'm not playing Fiendsmith, I'm just playing quote-unquote pure sprites that I can also play the Dominus Impulse. So in this meta, I suspect that Impulse is actually so good that it is worth playing over one of those other engines, but again, we saw Millennium Spright do well at Worlds, and I still think Fiendsmith Spright is a very good variant of the deck as well. Not quite full anti-Maliss though, I'm not going so far as to play Imperial Iron Wall as mentioned before, because while Maliss is very prominent on ladder, it's not like you're guaranteed to face against it. If I knew I was going to face against Maliss every time, then yeah, I could see myself cutting Impulse for the Iron Walls, then playing Fiendsmith or Millennium, but yeah, I don't know. As it stands, I think that for going into ranked ladder and trying to have a build that is both balanced, but keeping Maliss in mind, this is definitely the way to go. Playing pure, or again, playing without an additional engine like Fiendsmith or Millennium, also hugely opens up your extra deck. That's why I'm on Downard, Zeus, and Typhoned. Normally, like even Zeus I find to be very cuttable in Spright, but yeah, again, without all the extra like engines here, I actually have room for all three of these, so I like having that little bit of space. But yeah, I think that's just about going to go ahead and do it. Oh, pros and cons. Pros of this build, obviously, hugely good against Maliss. Don't have to really worry about that. And again, we have the Impulse for Maliss as well, because we are on Pure. I guess the big con, as mentioned, is that we're a little more susceptible to Droll because we're on Beckoning Beast and Opening. Also, Sprite's big weakness, as always, is that it is really weak to board breakers against stuff like Droplet especially. Tends to be very, very good against Spright. But all in all, I thought this build played out pretty well, and if you're liking Spright and really wanting to have a lot of outs to Maliss, I think a build like this is a good place to start. But that is going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you, as always, for watching and supporting these deck primers. I really liked making these, so if you're here supporting them, and especially watching till the end, I really, really, really appreciate that support. Thank you very much. But that'll do it for now. Let us move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.